Please welcome back to the stage Mr. Sam DeBord.
Thanks, everybody, for coming back. We appreciate you making it back to your seats. We have a great, important session that we're honored to be able to put on today. I think a lot of you know Glenn Sanford. You've heard about his company. I've known Glenn for a long time. It's kind of interesting that we had to come to Milan to get together because Glenn lives right up the road from me. It's a couple hours north. I'm in Seattle. He's in Bellingham. That's where he founded eXp Realty. And when you know someone like that from early on, you've got these just sort of straightforward business experiences. I've known Glenn to be a brilliant technologist, a brilliant brokerage person, but he was in my local market. We went to these little RE bar camps and different conferences. And I don't know if you've heard the saying, they say something to the effect of, a prophet is never without honor except in his hometown. And sometimes when you're that close to someone, you've got this very focused vision of who that person is, and you think that they're a great person, they're a smart person, but you can't see from a broad perspective how important that person and their vision can be. When Glenn brought the idea to us, starting in the Northwest, about this idea of a remote brokerage organization, not just on Zoom, but living in a 3D virtual world doing meetings in a virtual world, I thought, that's really cool. That's really interesting. But it's too early. It's too early. Agents aren't ready. I was managing a brokerage company there as well in Seattle. Well, boy, was I wrong. eXp, now the largest brokerage in terms of transactions in the world, and it's been an incredible rise of growth for the organization, and we're honored to have him here, Chair of eXp.World Holdings, Glenn Sanford.
Yeah, good to see you.
Great to see you. So I think it's probably good to level set with folks. You have an international organization, but to kind of give them an idea of the scope of eXp, what it is today.
Yeah, for those who aren't super familiar with it, eXp is now, we have about 87,000 agents. We operate in 24 countries. Most agents are in the US and Canada. We've got about 70,000 or so in the U.S., another 6,000 or so in Canada, and but we started actually 15 years ago yesterday, so we just celebrated our 15th anniversary, and we started with this basic idea. I got my real estate license as an agent in 2002, and I was 35 at the time, but I'd been mentored in business. I had started some businesses, and I had some really good business mentors. And I was sold on this idea that I have a real estate business, but if you really examine a real estate agent's business, it's really a business that owns them, meaning that if they don't go out and list and sell real estate, they're effectively out of business. And so then the next thing is, okay, well, if that's not quite a business, then what I need to do, and then the idea was to start a real estate team, which isn't actually that dissimilar to most real estate offices internationally. Most real estate offices are really little teamerages, but the next thing was to start a real estate team, and so I did that. In fact, Terry Murphy, who's here, she had launched a platform called I Succeed University back in the day, and I was studying all of these from all these great leaders that had come before about what they were doing to build teams. So I was using that platform to really kind of hone what we were doing. But by 2007, I decided that I needed to step up again and actually start a real estate brokerage. And at each stage, I realized that I hadn't quite got to the point where I really owned the business still fundamentally owned me. And what I think about a business is a business should provide passive income to the owners once it's built right. I mean, I think most of us are all business people in the room, And really the purpose of the business should be to kind of fund your ability to do other things. And if you don't get it to that point, then you're really working in the business, not as much on the business. So 2007, we started a brokerage called Buyer Tours Realty. And then 2008 happened, and the whole market collapsed. And I couldn't afford offices. I had 4 at the time. And but what I'd been taking notes all along the way of, if I ever do this again, here's what I'd do. Anybody do that? If I ever had to start again, I would change this whole thing. Well, 2008, 2009 actually created the perfect backdrop to take some of the ideas that I kind of penciled out in my head and said, why don't we do that? One, we couldn't afford offices, so we said, how do we build a business model that's not dependent on bricks and mortar? Because that was the single biggest cost to run a real estate brokerage. And then 2, if we didn't have physical offices, what would it take for agents to want to hang their license there? And then it dawned on me that the biggest challenge for a real estate agent is that there's no retirement in the real estate industry for real estate professionals. And so I said, well, if we can build a retirement engine where agents can retire with some level of dignity, then maybe agents would want to come and actually be a part of this brokerage. And I further thought about it from the perspective of, would this be a brokerage that I would hang my license at and actually be a lifer at, spend the rest of my career at? And that's what we fundamentally went and built. So we built that. We came up with some of the concepts in early 2009. By July, August, we kind of had it locked down. And on October 6th, 2009, my big motivational speech to the team at the time was, this is gonna work or it's not gonna work, and if it doesn't work, we're all looking for work. And so we launched with this really a big science experiment. Could you go to work as an avatar in a virtual world, create collaboration and community, and empower agents to build the businesses that work for them, serving the clients that they have in their local markets? And we started with about 45 agents overall from the teams that I ran, and we launched it, and then it took off. So that was really the beginnings of it, and as we grew, we grew rapidly. Not so much in the early years. It was a grind in 2010, 11, 12, 13. By about 2015, we had our first year where we really grew rapidly. We went from 400 to 800 agents in 2015. And then we went from 800 to 2,400 agents in 2016, and then up to 8,000 in 2017. And so we really hit this sort of hockey stick curve of growth. And then we had agents saying, hey, can we go to Canada? Can we go to the UK? Can we go to Australia? And so 2018, we actually opened up those 2 markets, and then we started to add more markets to it, and it really resonates with agents. We've got a good commission split and cap feature, which is, if you run an international brokerage, it's fairly expensive for agents in a lot of respects, not the least of which is the cap and split model. And then there's the portals and the other things. So I may get into that in a little bit because I've learned a lot about portals. We need MLS to basically moderate what portals charge to agents and brokerages. I can tell you that. I've seen that. Anyway, I'm just going to stop there. But we've obviously grown quite a bit, and we've got 2 or 3 countries that we've got now on the horizon. We're getting ready to open. Probably another one that we solidified through a little bit of a handshake yesterday. So we got another one that we'll probably launch from some help from some folks here in this room. So
Great, that's fantastic. It's we talked a lot at this event about telling a story, having an idea, having a vision, and being able to have people buy into that vision. You've got the nuts and bolts of the business. You've got to be able to build a brokerage and have the right compensation model. But the story is the thing that draws people in. We, at the beginning of the pandemic a few years ago, we hold a couple of conferences a year for RESO in person, and people, it's one of their favorite parts of the year because especially a lot of the developers and engineers and the software folks who don't get out on the conference circuit like all you may do, they love being there in person, but we were locked down. And eXp said, why don't you host a reception in our world? Why don't you just do your receptions there? And again, it's a very different idea. And folks at first think, well, I've been on a Zoom, I've done a Zoom happy hour. Do you remember people trying to do Zoom happy hours at the beginning of the pandemic? But it was amazing how many people, how many adults just acted like kids and ran around the eXp world and kicked soccer balls and had conversations. And it was really interesting. From the vision perspective, how do you think about that? How do you think about telling a story to people that convinces them to buy in more than just, hey, it's a good split, but that this vision of the organization is something that's going to make their lives better?
Yeah, the way I think about it is that you have to serve a bigger purpose. And our purpose really was to be the first real estate brokerage that could provide a meaningful retirement for real estate professionals. It didn't exist really in a significant way. Keller Williams has their take on it, their profit share model, but it wasn't very profitable. I can speak from experience. I was there, and so when we make it all about the agent, I think we are, as human beings, there's certainly a motivation to make money in this industry. That's why real estate agents get their license. That's why we build businesses. That's why we do the things that we do. But there's actually a bigger need, which is serving other people and helping them achieve what they want to achieve. And for us, that really fundamentally is helping agents build real businesses that scale and actually change their life and their life trajectory. The number of people that have come up to me over the years, it's incredible. The number of people have basically said that because of eXp, they were able to send their kids to college, they were able to pay off their house, they were able to do a number of things through either the equity awards or the revenue share, or just the fact that they were able to put more money in their pocket from the commissions that they generated. So for us, that's the mission. We say every day we go to work with the singular mission of being the most agent-centric real estate brokerage on the planet. And it really allows us both to be aligned with our agents, but also creates this real internal drive and mission for everything that we do. And I think it's important because at the end of the day, even though there's a profit orientation to running a business, by being mission-oriented, we actually become more profitable than being profit-focused. And so that mission and that story is really, the big piece that we spend our time really articulating every single day. What decisions are we making that's going to make the agents' lives better? And then we know if we can get enough agents as part of the platform, then it takes care of any of the financial pieces that ultimately drop down to our bottom line.
It fits really the message of what we have here too, is that it's so important what you're doing, obviously, with the lives of the real estate agents, but the way that our marketplaces serve people's housing needs. Massively important things. We don't sell sneakers and video games in this industry. We help people find housing opportunities, which is just one of those basic needs. When you think about that and your role in the real estate industry, and then your experience going global, going into different countries, what has that been like, and where do you find challenges and opportunities internationally?
So I wish the whole world operated like the U.S. and Canada, just saying that in the U.S. and Canada, because of the role that the MLS plays, it makes the business so much easier. When every time we step into a new market, there's 2, 3, 4 different portals And the conversations that I've had, and I don't think the portals that are represented in this room that I had these conversations with, so I'm going to just be a little bit probably more candid than I should, because it may still get back to them. But we had one conversation with one portal, and they told us to our face that they wanted to raise our prices 10% per year until it reached parity with what it used to cost in the newspaper to advertise properties. And there was no mitigating tool in our arsenal to really fundamentally keep them from doing that in that market. And now I'm a technologist, I'm an internet marketer, I've got, so we have, we'll say our sort of bag of tricks and things that we're working on to mitigate some of that. But that's been the biggest challenge, is just seeing how expensive this business is on agents and brokerages because of the stranglehold that the portals outside of North America, the stranglehold that portals have on the perception of what it takes to market properties and the number of leads that are coming from those portals, and the fact that in some markets they are 100% profit maximizing organizations that have zero interest in what we care about as agents and brokerages.
Yeah, it's a complex business, and you obviously have to have your business model that works for the folks that you work with, your agents and their consumers. When you think about technology, it's obviously not everything, but it's a part of the conversation, and it was part of what made your story unique. The business model and the technology was very unique compared to the other, brokerage models usually for collaboration. What do you see right now? What kinds of new technologies are you working on? What do you think are kind of the next steps for the brokerage industry in terms of technology?
Yeah, so we're focusing on. Well, we just did a relationship with a product. We don't own it, but we've got the worldwide rights to outside of North America in terms of our partnership with the platform, and you can see it at homehunter.global. But it's a really unique platform that allows consumers and agents to basically install a browser extension to co-browse, co-bookmark, and co-market property through, regardless of what real estate portal they're using. And so we really like it as a way to kind of bring back a little bit of power back to the brokerage and the agent, and to connect the relationships back to the agents, and to some extent sort of disintermediate the stranglehold that portals have on those relationships. It's probably not going to have a huge impact, but it's going to have some impact in terms of our ability to innovate and continue to scale. Obviously right now, and there were a number of people have talked about sort of where AI sort of operates in this whole ecosystem. But in the next, we're already seeing people using platforms like Cursor and new models off of platforms like Hugging Face and others, where you're eventually going to be able to rapidly develop and remove some of the SaaS expenses or the software as service expenses that you currently have as a brokerage. So you think about all the CRM stuff and IDX stuff and all that. A lot of that stuff is going to be things that you'll be able to actually build by having a conversation eventually with your AI, and actually build out your own tech stack that's going to provide better features and functionality than going to a third-party SaaS provider. So I'm really excited about sort of what that sort of operates like. We're heavy users of AI. We're in the process of rolling out over 1,000 of the enterprise OpenAI seats to all of our staff. We're building hundreds, if not thousands, of custom GPTs for everything from broker advice to marketing tools to scripts and dialogues and then automation that goes along with that. We're exposing through a number of GPTs in public domain, a lot of cool things that will help both educate consumers. We've got one that's coming out, actually when we release our earnings for EXPI, we're actually going to have a investor relations GPT where you'll have conversations like you would with an investor relations person, but you'll be able to do that with a GPT that we pre-programmed and pre-set up. So we've got a lot of things that we're doing relative to AI, and in my opinion, you can't go in enough on AI. You may not be able to implement everything that you're learning in real time, but you will get so many prototypes of where the future is going that it will give you a preview of where you're going to be a year from now or 2 years from now because of the things that you can do today. One thing that we just loved playing with this here recently is how many of you played with the notebook LLM from Google? Anybody seen that? Couple few folks. Like, it's pretty crazy what this will do. It'll basically build you the best podcast on any content you put into it. And so we've taken our employee manuals, we've taken our country leader manuals. We own Success Magazine. We just uploaded the latest issue of Success Magazine, and the conversations that these AIs actually have that sound human, and you are, you would have paid $15,000-$20,000 to get the voices, the scripts, the conversations, and all this, and it literally is just upload a document and push generate a conversation. It's just incredible what you can do. And so just all these things that are coming at us so quickly, even a month from now, the whole landscape will have changed.
It is incredible. We've loaded a couple documents about the data dictionary, a couple documents about our conference coming up, and it puts together an ad with a couple of very realistic people having just a lively conversation about your boring, static forms, the data dictionary. It really is incredible. We all usually have these conversations about buy versus build. Some of these things you're going to do on your own. Some of these things you're going to leverage someone else's technology. You had, a few years back when we started and did our reception in eXp.World, a downloadable system that took some time, and now you've moved to sort of web-based. What do you see in terms of collaboration within the organization, technology-wise?
Yeah, so so Sam's referring to our eXp.World. We had bought a company back in 2018 called Virbela, and it was a downloadable client to actually use a metaverse. And so it's ironic, we actually have the most enterprise-ready metaverse that currently exists on the market today. And that's even with Meta spending over $1 billion sort of building out their whole workroom and all that other stuff that they've done. And so we did Virbela. We've now got FrameVR.io. We developed that in-house. We have a team that built that whole thing from scratch. And it will actually support up to 1,000 people in a web-based metaverse, meaning that you can go into it on your Chrome browser, on your computer, your Safari browser, on your phone, and you can actually show up as an avatar in a virtual space, sharing screens, sharing webcams, having conversations, moving digital assets, and basically doing all the things that you would do in a physical office, but doing it in a virtual campus. It's really, we refer to it as our digital city. So I can literally walk. We practice a thing called MBAA. So how many of you have heard of management by walking around? Anybody? Okay, a few hands. So that was a term coined by Peter Drucker back in the day, which is that if you're going to be a good manager, you need to walk around your people. Well, in a world where you're entirely remote, you don't just drop into people's Zoom conversations or G-Meets to sort of see what they're up to. And so being virtual, it's the reason why Amazon's pulling everybody back to the office. Being virtual has some real limitations if you don't have the right collaboration technologies. But for us, we call it management by avataring around. So I'll literally bounce into different offices. So Felix, who's over there, or Megan, or Stefania, or Dennis, our Italy leader, or Nico's here from Germany, or Adam Day, or whoever, I'll literally bounce in and out of offices. They'll bounce into mine. We'll have real conversations that will quickly just bang, bang, bang. The friction of communication is so low that we're able to be agile, nimble, and innovative without ever physically jumping on a plane or doing any of the stuff. And so you can check it out if you want at framevr.io. It's an enterprise platform. You can all use it. It's easy to use. But our version of it, we call it eXp.World. So it's eXp.World. And and again, you can even come in there and have conversations with us. We've got an international office that's totally open. And if you're ever just interested, send me a note. I'll invite you in. We can have a conversation, show you how we use it. But for us, we think it really creates the true analog to a physical office. And we've had zero physical office presence. I had a holdout for about 4 years of the accounting team. They said they needed an office. But in the last 15 years, I haven't went to a physical office at all to run eXp in any capacity. And all of our leadership team, in fact, our current leadership team has never been in an office in eXp physically.
Yeah, pretty amazing story. We did our prep call in eXp.World and just bumped into each other and had a conversation, and it's a very different experience. Thinking about your international experience so far, and obviously the different levels of maturation of markets in terms of data access, and especially living.
There's data access outside of North America?
There is, but it's different stages, as most of our speakers have told us. Folks when they're going home, when they're going to their markets, when they want to be able to tell a story and a vision, but then kind of brass tacks about where to get started, where is a brokerage who's coming in who really feels the need for the different levels of access to certain kinds of data and better data and more accurate data and timely. What do you think folks would want to know and want to be able to express to their organizations when they go home?
Thinking about real estate brokerages, I think the real estate brokerages that cooperate together will outperform those that don't. It's what I'm seeing internationally is there's not a lot of cooperation because of the way that they weren't really structured the same way as they were in North America. So everybody basically are true competitors. There's not really the co-opetition or cooperation that we're used to in the U.S. Now there's a little bit here and there. In Portugal, I know that there's a cooperation. There's different markets where there's some cooperation, but it's not overt cooperation. It's not built into the operating system of the brokerages in international markets. But I think the reality is that the brokerages that decide, hey, we're going to move to a more cooperative-based environment. We're going to allow anybody to cooperate at any level that they want to cooperate with us. Those brokerages will outperform because they'll be able to share information, listings, training, support, and a whole bunch of other things. In the U.S., there are 30,000 different real estate brokerages in the United States, something crazy like that. We're all competitors, but we're all also cooperating together, and it really allows the small guy and the big companies to all work together, but still have their very unique flavors of how they do the business. The largest brands in the U.S. are only 10 to 12% of the entire real estate market. So it's still a very small percentage, and that's after lots and lots of money been thrown in. But the ones that cooperate the most are the ones that tend to win. And so that's the thing that I think is really missing is like how you can go back and cooperate. Can you share listings between two different offices that are from two different brands? Like, can you create a quasi MLS just between two offices? Then can you add a third one? Can you add a fourth one? Can you actually sort of integrate? Maybe you pull in a platform that already exists to do this to now do it at scale. But the more that you share, the more you're going to be able to pick up market share.
It's a great message and a great set of ideas to think about going home, that just making that first step, getting that first step started on that progress, which the bar seems so high to get to a certain level, but that first step is the first critical part. It's an absolute honor for us to have you here. We're grateful as the International MLS Forum. Would you please give Glenn a big round of applause for being here? Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.